1, 2, 3. I'll be sticking with number 1, but let me know if you guys prefer any other lighting. I want to try to get the most amount of visibility without having any of the harshness of the white light. What's up, beautiful people? Today we have a little surprise for you peeps. A short and concise but informative piece on the bench arch and what you guys should focus on when incorporating this into your bench setup.
3 hours later.
Can you move it along? I'm all out of time cards.
Now, before we delve into this piece, I want to mention the overarching get it? Theme in this video, which will be the 2 anchor points. And I'm going to delve into that later in this video. Let's start from the bottom up. Feet positioning in the bench press and its effect on leg drive and the arch. Your feet planted against the floor will be considered anchor point number 1. When it comes to foot placement relative to the length of your body, you will usually have 2 options. Option 1 will involve you pushing your feet as close to your torso as possible, where the angle between your shins and the floor is greater than 90 degrees. On the other hand, option 2 will involve you keeping your feet further away from your torso, resulting in an angle closer to 90 degrees with respect to the floor. Option 1 will usually allow you to have a larger arch and thus a shorter range of motion, but I usually won't recommend this for one reason. In the bench press, our goal should be to direct as much leg drive toward our face as possible. When it comes to feet positioning, it's going to be much easier to do so if we have a straight driving force with the highest degree of friction on the floor. This is especially important since we're talking about an anchor point. Let's look at the extreme. Let's say a federation allows you to bench with your feet on a wall, and this would most likely provide the absolute most leg drive when it comes to directing it toward your face, because the direction of leg drive is far more linear than option 1 and option 2. Therefore, I would suggest keeping your feet as close to 90 degrees as possible to provide a more linear leg drive toward the face, along with greater feet to floor leverage. The small range of motion lost is negligible when you consider how much benefit you would obtain from a greater leg drive in the bench press. Let's talk about knee position with respect to your hips. Specifically, I'm talking about benching with heeled shoes versus flat shoes. This one is a little more nuanced and subjective, and as such, I'll be grazing over this topic. Imagine a scenario where someone has very large calf bones to the point where their knees are above their hips. Their leverages would be terrible when it comes to being able to provide leg drive toward your face. Generally, it's unlikely that one will be short enough where the angle between the knee and hip is so large that it becomes a disadvantage, and as such, I don't recommend wearing heeled shoes as it would only decrease the angle between the hips and knees. Now moving on to the torso. This will be comprised of 2 parts, bridging and retraction/depression. When it comes to bridging, there are 2 methods that are commonly used, the C bridge versus the V bridge. As the name suggests, the C bridge is an arc shaped like a C, whereas the V bridge is an arc shaped like a misaligned V. The highest point of a C bridge will be the middle of your torso, whereas the highest point of a V bridge will be the bottom/middle of your ribcage, which is considerably higher than the middle of the torso. A V bridge can be achieved by manipulating your bracing and performing thoracic extension, aka pushing your ribcage toward the ceiling and/or meeting the bar halfway as it comes down. This is usually highly dependent on the anatomy as well as flexibility, but a strong arc can be developed nonetheless through constant repetition and practice. As powerlifters with a very small range of motion in the bench press, our goal is to stack our joints, aka the shoulders and elbows, with the bar. This flaring method reduces our ability to bring the bar to a lower portion of our torso. Therefore, it would be much better if we utilize the V bridge, which would effectively allow us to hit the highest point of our arc with the bar without having to tuck our elbows in like the C bridge would. If you look at the photos depicted, you'll notice that back when I utilized the C bridge, I was forced to tuck in my elbows. Since the range along the length of my body from the highest point of the arc to my retracted and depressed scapula was larger than when I utilized the V bridge, leading into my next topic. Stacking our joints in the bench press requires us to flare our elbows, effectively reducing our range across the length of our body. Proper retraction and depression will lower your joints and allow you to easily meet the highest point of your arc without having to tuck in your elbows, aka losing joint stackage. As mentioned previously, this is why the V arc is far superior to the C arc. It positions the highest point of your arc closer to your shoulders, elbows, and the bar, allowing you to meet the highest point of the arc without having to tuck your elbows. Last but not least, scapular depression and retraction, which will be anchor point number 2. Aside from the general stability and safety issues that come with retraction and depression, You should also understand the benefits in range of motion when it comes to performing these properly. First and foremost, proper retraction and depression reduces range of motion because it allows a portion of your upper torso to be locked into place onto the bench. If your scapula is high and rhomboids are not pressed together, your shoulders are displaced from the bench, increasing your range of motion. This is why you see so many lifters plant their feet first before dragging their torso along the bench until they get under the bar. The friction between the bench and your scapula/rhomboids will help you further depress and retract your upper body. Now that we've gone over the smaller intricacies of the bench arc, let's move on to the anchor points. As I referenced earlier in this video, the two anchor points are the feet and the scapula/rhomboids. If your feet and shoulders are planted, everything in between can be manipulated with proper bracing and practice. In order to increase your bench arc, you have to learn how to manipulate your body to provide the largest amount of thoracic extension possible. There you have it, folks. This concludes our informative piece. Our next video will be comprised of the bench grip and how the bench grip affects range of motion. Be on the lookout for that, and hopefully I'll be able to finish that as soon as possible. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.